Well, hi there, folks. Pull up a rocking chair and sit a spell. This is Bobby Autry, and welcome once again to Stories and Tall Tales from my back porch rocking chair, where there's always room for one more. Wow. Told you some stupid stuff from last week. We're going to take you a little different journey this time. Back into the early 60s when Patsy and I were dating. And part of what you have to do when you date, you have to meet the in-laws. And so we're going to tell you a story about going over to meet Patsy's grandmother and grandfather, and some things that was required of this young city boy. But you know, every now and then life takes you places you never expected to go, and sometimes love will carry a skinny city boy right up onto Chandler Mountain in Alabama, standing in the middle of a rabbit hunt, holding a shotgun he didn't know how to use, wondering if he was going to survive long enough to marry the girl that he loved. Now, folks, this one really happened, so grab yourself a cup of sweet tea, settle back for just a little while, and let me tell you about the time Patsy's grandpa, Arthur Redden, took this city boy rabbit hunting on Chandler Mountain back in the early 1960s. Are you ready? Settle back. Oh, this is going to be good. I remember it so well. Patsy had come from a strong Alabama family-rooted family, deep in their faith and deep in their community. And her grandfather, Arthur Redden, he pastored a small Baptist church on Chandler Mountain and in the Gadsden, Alabama area, while also working at the Goodyear Tire and Rubber plant in Gadsden. Miss Pauline, Patsy's grandmother as she was known, well, she kept a table full of food, always making everybody feel at home, no matter when you showed up. Well, things happened. Patsy had decided that it was time for me to meet her grandparents. It was getting close to Thanksgiving, Christmas, first of the year, cooler weather. Things had been going on for a little while. She said, it's time. We're going to check out of school on a Friday afternoon and make the trip over from Marietta, Georgia to Gadsden, Alabama. Spend the weekend. Well, I wasn't really up to it, but you got to do what you got to do. So we made the plans and made the trip. Over we went, Alabama. Now this Georgia boy, he wasn't so much into this going to Alabama thing. But there we went, and we pulled up to the house. I guess it was around 4:30, 5 o'clock. A few cars in the driveway, pickup truck. We get out and go to the door. Patsy simply knocks. We're here. Door opens the door, and we start in, and there's several people coming to the door. And Patsy's hugging them, and I'm kind of straggling on the backside. And all of a sudden, everybody took a look and said, he's skinny. Well, that's a good introduction. They said, come on, boy. We're going to have us some dinner. And everybody back to the dinner table. Now, you have to get the picture. Over in Alabama, over at Arthur and Pauline Redden's house, there was always food on the table. Never knew who was going to show up. Some other family, some friends, people from church, people from the Goodyear plant. You never knew, but they always had plenty to eat. And I looked at that table, and my goodness, corn on the cob, green beans. Of course, that didn't thrill me a whole lot right there. Rice, gravy, mashed potatoes, gravy, homemade Alabama style biscuits, and a big old plate of all kinds of meat. They said, "Sit down, boy. You need to fatten yourself up." Well, I sat down, reached over to pick up a piece of chicken. Pow! My hand got slapped. Got to say the blessing first. Oh, I'm sorry. So, Patsy's grandfather, the Reverend Arthur Redden, said the blessing. Well, when you say the blessing in Alabama on a Friday night with a family all around a big old table of food, it's not quick. And we waited. And we waited. Finally, Granddaddy Redden said, "Hey man, dig in." So I did. Everybody was passing all these plates to me. "You got to try this. You got to try this. You need some of this. And take some more if you need more than that." And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine. No, come on, boy. You got to eat." And of course, we had some big old glasses of sweet iced tea. Little conversation around the table, and everything went okay. And finally, Granddaddy Redden, as he was called, he back from the table and said, "Miss Pauline, that was good. Come on, guys." And we all guys stood up and we followed Granddaddy Redden back into the living room. All the women got up and started cleaning the table. Well, wasn't long we was in the living room and Granddaddy Redden said, "Come on." We went out on the porch. Everybody's sitting around, rocking back and forth, telling stories. How'd the week go? What's planned for the weekend? What's happening? And on and on. Then Granddaddy Redden said, "Young man, you come with me." "Yes, sir." And we went around to the back of the house, and we got to the back of the house, and there was some dogs barking and some birds, and looked around, and there was even some chickens. Granddaddy Redden, he was showing me all of his stuff in the back, and he was proudest over in one area. He had some beagles in a fenced area. He said, "These are my hunting dogs." He said, we raise these, we train these, and they're the best you can get." I said, "Wow, that sounds good. Oh my goodness, that's just the thing I want to hear." And he said, "Come look at this." We went over, and there was some chickens, and he reached in a bag and got some feed out and started spreading it around. Here, you try it." Didn't really want to, but okay. So I did it like I do grass seed and threw it out. And we walked over, and he was showing me the area where he has his big garden every year, and telling me what he would grow and all the things that would take place. And he says, "All right, son, come on, let's go back in the house." And I followed him, and the ladies had just finished up the dinner, and we all went back into the living room and sat down for a few minutes, and a few more stories were told. Now, by then it was only 8:30. Granddaddy Redden got up and said, "Got to get up early in the morning. So it's time for bed." So he and Miss Pauline kind of excused themselves and said, "All right, son, you can use this front room here, and Miss Pauline's got you a place over on the sofa, and a nice blanket and a fluffy pillow, and you're going to be all right." I said, "Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Miss Pauline turned to me and said, "Here's the bathroom, and you can take yourself a shower and switch into your pajamas." I looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't bring any pajamas." That's okay. We let it go at that, and I went and finished talking for a few minutes, and they went to the back room, and went to the bathroom and shut the door, and lo and behold, there's some blue pajamas on the bathroom sink. And I looked at them, I said, "Oh, About that time, I knock at the door and said, "Those are for you." "Okay, thank you." And, well, I was really surprised. They were pretty much my size, even as skinny as I was. So, took a shower, put on them baby blue pajamas, walked out and back to the living room. Nobody's there. And I'm looking at the sofa and all the stuff. And Patsy had gone and changed into her pajamas, and she came back to the door and she says, Bobby. And I said, "Here I am." And she came around and said, "Well, everything's going to be all right. You just get a good night's rest, and I'll see you in the morning." And she came over and gave me a kiss right on the cheek. And about that time, from the back room, I heard from Granddaddy Red, "All right, it's bedtime." So Patsy went back to her room, and I went and got on the sofa. Well, didn't seem like long. Eyes had closed. Here I am, this city boy, over in Alabama. About closing my eyes. Then, what was that? I stood. That's the rooster. And I got up. Gosh, I didn't realize I'd done slept a couple hours, and the sun was just barely coming up. And I looked over toward the kitchen, and light was on. Miss Pauline was already in there fixing breakfast. Patsy got dressed, and she was in there helping her. And looked toward the living room and said, "You need to get dressed. We're going to have breakfast ready in a minute." So I did what you got to do. So I got dressed and went back into the dining room, and they had, oh my goodness, ham, bacon, sausage, pancakes, scrambled eggs, fried eggs, boiled eggs, rice, gravy, Alabama Southern biscuits, orange juice, and milk. Okay. I sat down, they said, "All right, come on, you gotta get with it." And about that time, Granddaddy Redden comes into the room. He says, "I hope you slept good, boy." I said, "Yes, sir, I did." He went over and sat down. "Let us thank the Lord for all that we're about to receive." And I was ready for another sermon, but this wasn't too long. He just thanked the Lord for the dogs and the chickens and the sun, and he thanked him for the cars and the trucks and the church and the people in the church and this young skinny boy that came from Marietta, Georgia. Amen. Dig in. Well, I took an egg here and a pancake there, and next thing I know, I said, you ain't never gonna fatten up. You don't put something on them bones, boy. And they started putting stuff on my plate, and I was like, "Really? I'm not that hungry." I said, "Well, you're gonna eat it. We don't leave nothing to waste around here." So I did what I could and drank me some orange juice, and I drank me some milk, and sat back in the chair. All of a sudden, Granddaddy Redden, he says, "Y'all excuse me." He reached over and gave Miss Pauline a kiss on the forehead and said, "Miss Pauline, you did outstanding." And he went to the back room. So I started to try to help with the dishes, and I was told, nope, you go in, you just gotta wait. And I was there, and it wasn't long to down the hallway. Here comes Granddaddy Redden. He's dressed to go hunting. He's got a hunting vest on. He's got a hat on. He's got some hunting boots. Got a vest. All this stuff. He said, "Come on, boy, we're going hunting." I said, "Oh, no, sir. I didn't bring anything. I haven't got any hunting clothes or anything I can do." And said, "If it's all right, I'll just stay here." He said, "You need to come, boy." I said, "I appreciate it, sir, but maybe next time." And he kind of gave me one of those looks, and out the door he goes. Well, ladies cleaned up the dishes, and I kind of just sit around. I didn't know what to do, so I finally went out on the porch and I walked around and looked in the backyard. The dogs were gone. It got loaded up in the truck with Granddaddy Redden, and I went over and watched some of the chickens, and I looked at where some of the garden had been and some things that was growing over there, and kind of looked around and walked down the driveway and just kind of went up and down the road a little bit to see where everything was at, and finally went back up on the porch and sat and went in, and Miss Pauline had got some different kinds of stuff from various gardens or things wherever you get this stuff from, and they were actually doing some canning. They was going to can. Now that means put them in jars. Don't put them in cans. You put them in jars. But they were doing this stuff and getting things put up for the winter. And I'm like, okay. Anything I can do to help? Well, you can bring us some water and you can clean some of this stuff up for us. So I did, and the day kind of went like that. It seemed like it just took on its own little way of doing things. And a little bit later, I want to get you some tea. I'm still got a little bit of the story to go. Let me get this rocking chair back. So it wasn't long till Granddaddy Redden came home. Heard him pull up in the driveway with the truck. Heard the dogs barking. I went out on the porch. He said, "That's all right, son. Hold on." He got them dogs out and took them to the back and put them in the pen, and he came and got his, what they call, hunting bag, I guess, where you put whatever you get. And he did, and he went around the back. So I kind of waited and went back in the house. Well, Miss Pauline and Patsy had already started on what would be considered dinner, because again, there's always something on the table. And so they were cooking things up. There comes that mashed potatoes. There comes that rice, cream corn, gravy. Brother Redden had come in the back door in the meantime, and he told Miss Pauline, said, "Had a good day today, Miss Pauline. Said, we're going to have a good dinner. Bobby, you go wash up." And so I did. Got to mind my manners. I'm in the country. I come back in, I sit down. All of a sudden, Miss Pauline brings in this big old plate of stuff on this platter, and Granddaddy Redden said, "Good fresh rabbit." He could see from the look on my face, I had never had fresh rabbit. He smirked a little. "City boy," said, "you gonna like it. Tastes like chicken." Isn't that what they all say? Well, they put a little bit on my plate, and I said, "Oh, thank you. That ain't enough, son. There's more. We got more here than that." So I ended up having my first fried rabbit that tastes like chicken. And we finished up, and they told some stories and went back through the things that we'd gone through on Friday night. And he looked over and he said, "Now, y'all need to get to bed early." I said, "We got to get up and go to church." I said, "Oh, yes, sir. I brought my church clothes." I said, "Okay." So I went back and took a shower, went to the bathroom to take a shower. When I'm going to the bathroom, there wasn't no blue pajamas. There was some striped ones. So I was kind of looking, and about that time, I was a knock at the door. I said, "Those are for you." "Thank you." Took my shower and changed into my striped pajamas. Went back in the living room. Everybody saying goodnight. Granddaddy Redden said, "Be sure and say your prayers, son. Be ready for church in the morning." I said, "Yes, sir, I will." And Miss Pauline went on back. Patsy, she said, "I hope you've had a good day. I think they like you." I think they do. I feel like they're fattening me up. Maybe they're going to have me for Thanksgiving dinner. Well, she gave me another kiss, just as she did from the back. You could hear, "Good night." Okay. Patsy goes back to her room. I get back on the sofa. Early the next morning, we go through it again. Here's this big bride. I'm telling you, I had just closed my eyes, and all of a sudden, there it was, like it was on cue or something. That chicken was doing its thing, and I went and changed clothes and put on my Sunday best and met him at the table. And didn't take but a few minutes. Granddaddy Red came down the hall, said the blessing, said, "Now we need to get everything cleaned up and we got to go." So we did. It didn't take too long, and so we went, and they got in his truck and they went, and we had to follow him. So I'm riding in my 1963 blue Chevy Impala Super Sport. Remember that from past episodes? That's the car we were in. And we were following Brother Red and going down some old roads, and all of a sudden he stops. I pull up behind him. I said, "That doesn't look like no church." And he gets out and he runs, goes up a hill, and he's carrying something with him. And he goes up and he knocks on the door, and he comes back down the hill, gets in the car, and kind of throws his hand out the window. "Come on!" And he went on down the road, and I was following him. He stopped again. He gets out and does the same thing. There's another house, and he goes over and goes up to the house, knocks on the door, puts something down, comes down, and back in the truck, and off we go. Okay. Didn't take too long. All of a sudden, we get to the church and can see some of the people, and they start hugging and doing the things you do when you go to an old country church. And as I walk down the hill, of course, now I was in a three-piece suit. Now, you got to remember, being a disc jockey and being a young man over in Marietta, Georgia, I like to wear nice threads. I had a nice leisure suit back then. Nobody say anything about that. You youngsters have to look that one up. But a leisure suit with a nice collar. And Patsy and I go in, and everybody starts being introduced to me and all. But my goodness, them saying, I think somebody had already told them. Because as soon as they introduced me, they said, "Well, you're skinny. You need to be fattened up, boy." And Miss Pauline, take care of that. "No, thank you. And we sat down and we sang some songs and did the country church type of service, and everybody was friendly. And when Brother Red got up to deliver the message he wanted once again, he said, "Want to be sure everybody knows my granddaughter Patsy, that her friend that she's brought over from Marietta. Y'all should be sure to make him welcome. And if you got anything in your pocket, be sure and give it to him where he have something to eat. And that boy needs to be fattened up from the pulpit yet." Oh well, things finished. We finished. We said our goodbyes because we was leaving right after church, headed back to Marietta. So on the way home, I was telling Patsy, Patsy, I said, "I'm glad this is over with." I said, "I like to meet your family. They were just wonderful people, and that was a great experience. But my goodness," says, "I don't think I've ever eaten so much in my life." She said, "Oh, that's nothing. So we made it back. And to my surprise, 2 weeks later, Patsy said, "It's time to go." "Where?" "Well, this was a Thursday." She said, "Tomorrow we need to check out of school early again." And I told my granddaddy and grandma Pauline that we'd be coming back to Alabama. No, I'm not thinking so." "Well, have you ever been 16, 17 years old, going steady, and all of a sudden things come up, kind of a little bit of a disagreement?" And Patsy looked at me, and she batted those little eyes. She said, "If you love me, you'll go with me." I told her, "Sweetheart, it's okay. You and your mom go. I've got some things I've got to do. I've already made some commitments for Sunday, and I really need to stay." There's the eyes. There's the head hanging down. There's the please go. They're expecting us. And if you really love me, you go with me. Have you ever had that happen? I think I need to rock here for a minute. I'm telling you. Yep, gotta think about it. Oh, you don't really think very long, do you? All right, we'll go. So we go back through. Friday comes, get out of school, head over to Alabama. We get there. Guess what? Just in time for dinner. And they had some friends from the church and a couple other family members there. And we all sat around. I don't know if anybody else in Gadsden, Alabama had anything to eat, but there sure was a lot on the Reverend Arthur Redden's table. God had provided. Had a lot to eat. Go through the same thing, go out, check the dogs, check the chickens, sit on the porch, talk to them in a few minutes, go in, change clothes. They go to bed. Patsy comes, gives me a kiss. Good night, kids. Nothing changes on Chandler Mountain. Okay. So, back to bed. I was ready, though. My eyes opened up just before I could hear. Oh! I beat that rooster up. But there was the breakfast already being cooked. There was the eggs. There was the pancakes. There was the Gadsden Southern homemade biscuits. And there was Granddaddy Red coming down the hallway. Son, take these. And he turns to me and he gives me a stack. And on the top of the stack is a hunting cap. Guess that's what you'd call it. Had flaps. Look down. There's a tweed type shirt, long sleeve. Put it on. Here's a yellow vest. Put it on. Overalls. Put them on. Got suspenders. Hold them up. A vest to go across that had shotgun shells in it. I said, I'm really not familiar with shotguns. Don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it. Didn't have to worry about my shoes because I could wear my shoes inside these pull-up pants they had for me to go hunting in. Lord of mercy, I'm going to have to go. Brother Redden was smiling, Sister Pauline was smiling, and Patsy was smiling. Bobby Ray, not so much. Come on, boy, it's time to go. Brother Redden had already loaded the dogs in the back of the truck, and we get in and we start riding. He said, I'm going to show you, son. Our families, all of the families around here, we all have had property up here on Chandler Mountain. As we go by the church, and here's the church, and that's the family church, and there's that next to it they had a cemetery, and he said that's where all the family and friends and all are buried, and we got a family plot right over there. In fact, Patsy's got a uncle that's buried over there. Yes, sir. So went past the church. I was feeling pretty bad. Go past the church. Turns off the main road, down some dirt roads. We go down to a place that's got a big old gate. Opens the gate. We go through it. Closes the gate. Here's a big sign that says private property. Don't you worry about having that license now. We own private property, and it's okay. And I'm saying, well, I really don't know, but you ever been down an old Alabama country road in the winter time of months after some of the rain and some of the things that take place, and in an old pickup truck and bouncing down through there, and the dogs are barking. Oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? And all of a sudden he stops, gets out, said, you stay there, boy. He goes around, gets a gun out of the back of the truck. Come here, Bobby. And I got out of the truck, and he says, you see that mountain right over there? And there was a kind of a cliff and an open area. He said, let me show you how to shoot this thing. He reached over and got a couple of shells out of my vest and pops open. He said, this is a .20 gauge shotgun. I need to be sure you understand how to use it. Safe shotgun carrying is one of the very first things an experienced rabbit and quail hunter will teach you. You got to keep the muzzle controlled. You got to keep the safety on and make sure nobody, remember this now, nobody's ever in front of the gun. Well, how do you do all this? The gun rests across the forearms, the muzzle's pointed safely upward. Easy to control and quick to shoulder safely. He said, when you're walking in open fields, or you're following the bird dogs, the rabbit dogs, your general group hunting, whatever it may be, you want to have safety first, son. And one hand holds the shotgun near the balance point, and the gun hangs beside the hunter when you're standing, and the muzzle's always pointed upward. Because you don't want to shoot your foot. You don't want to shoot the dog. And you sure don't want to shoot me. Okay, so he showed me how to take the safety off and how to load the gun. And then he showed me how to hold it up and shoot that piece of dirt over there, that mountain, that little cliff area. I hit it. Now he said, this is a scatter shot. This ain't like a regular old gun. You talking about a hunting gun. So you don't have to be real accurate. You just got to shoot toward it and scatter. I said, now you just be careful. And we did it a few times. He said, I think you got it. Took the gun from me, put it in the back of the truck, said, get in the truck, boy. So I did. And we go on down the road a little bit and pulls over to the side. He said, you sit right there. I did. He got out. This time he let the dogs out of the back of the truck, and they barking and dogs everywhere. And so I'm sitting there in the truck, and he says, all right, son, get out. And I get out, and the dogs have already taken off down into the woods. And there's one little puppy that's there. And he said, that's the pup. He's just learning how to do this. He said, he'll stay right here with us. He said, I'll tell you what. You keep the pup with you, I'm going with the dogs. Here's your gun, you're going to go right over there and just look around and say, this little pup, even though he's young, he should be able to stir you up a rabbit. I said, oh, thank you, sir. I think we'll stay right here. And he said, all right, if you have any problems, and he showed me I had a whistle. He said, you just blow this whistle, I'll hear you. I'll know where you at, and I'll come get you. I said, okay. He said, I'm going back over here. And I said, no, we'll meet back here in about an hour. So he takes off, and me and the little pup, we take off. And I'm looking around. I'm like, well, hopefully ain't nothing around over here. And I kind of walk away, and we're going down. And I start petting the puppy, and I pick up a stick and throw it. Puppy don't go get it, but I threw the stick anyway. And went and got me a piece of what to call just something you not take off a plant and you start chewing on it, and it's just what they do. And I guess that's what I did. We was looking around, and all of a sudden I heard a pow. Oh, heard a gun. That was her granddaddy. Oh no, he's done shot something. I was like, oh, we need to get away from here. And so me and the pup, we started going further into the woods, and wasn't too long after that, pow! Another one. Oh, he's done shot something else. What are we going to do? Me and that pup's walking around in the bushes and the leaves and all. And all of a sudden, that puppy went, rabbit comes out of a bunch of leaves in a hole, and the rabbit starts running one way. The dog's going another way. Bobby Ray, I'm going back to the truck. And we just running as fast as we can. Didn't see that rabbit again. Wasn't really sure where the puppy went at that point, but I found the truck. You know what? I didn't even think about that gun when I was running. I guess I carried it okay because we made it to the truck. But I couldn't remember if I ran with it up or ran with it down. Oh, I sure hope Granddaddy didn't see me. And I put the gun in the truck, in the back of the truck next to the dog pen, and all of a sudden, here comes this little pup. He comes up here and sits at my feet. My little heart was beating. I heard the dogs. Heard the dogs. Oh, man. Oh, here they come. Oh, my goodness. Up toward the truck. Oh. And then here comes Granddaddy Red. And he's got a smile on his face. Got his gun unloaded and it opened up and carrying it in his game sack. That's what it was called, a game sack. He had that game sack and you could tell there was something in it. And he come over and said, I didn't hear you shoot, so I don't guess you got anything, did you, boy? No, sir. We did see it. We did see a rabbit, but it was too fast. That rabbit too fast for that gun? No, sir. Rabbit's too fast for me. and the pup. And he kind of growled a little bit, and he said a few things, and all the dogs jumped up into the back of the truck, into the cage, and he shut it. He came around, he said, you know, son, you're going to be a part of this family, you're going to have to learn how to hunt. We can't go back without you shooting something. And we just got to find you. I know another place. Just hang on. You go get in the truck. It's okay. Go get in the truck. Well, he shut everything up, put the guns up, checked everything. He came and got in the truck, cranked it up, and off we go. He said, there's another spot right down here. There's a valley, and I just know there's going to be something down in there. Them dogs, he said, we're going to let them out. He said, they go running down through there, and said, they'll get something. They'll start chasing something, and they'll round it up for you. Well, that's okay, sir. I don't really... Well, I didn't say anything else, and we went down the road a little bit, boom, 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 and then we pull up. He said, here it is. And I looked, and there was a beautiful meadow. Now, see, I'm learning terminology. There's a beautiful meadow. It's kind of goes down the hill, and there's a bunch of grass and some weed type stuff, and you can see down into it, and it kind of just blends in, and just really a nice little valley. He gets the dogs out, and he hollers to the lead dog, old Red, you go get something, boy. You go boys. And them dogs took off running just like they knew what he was talking about. They go down the hill and down toward that meadow valley. There they go, and off they go, just a barking. Oh, there they go. Oh, Lord. He said, we're going to stand up here, son. And he said, let me tell you what's going to happen. He said, they're going to rustle up something for us, and you can listen to them. You'll be able to tell when they get something. They get something stirred up, and they'll start chasing it. And they're going to turn it, and they'll bring it back toward us. So now, when you hear them coming, I'm going to walk over here to the left just a little bit. I said, then if they start bringing this way, we'll kind of be over here ready for it. But I said, I have a feeling. I know old Red, and I know what he's going to do. And he's going to turn that. And he's going to bring it up here, and he'll bring it just down here, right where that crook in the road is. And I want you to go stand right over there, boy, and you be ready. Well, we could hear them dogs in the distance. He said, he done got him one. You get ready. You go up there. So, dear Lord, don't make this happen to me. But I walk on up there, and I look down. The little pup, he'd stayed, but he'd stayed with Granddaddy. He didn't go with me. And I go stand over there, and I'm watching, and I'm listening, and Granddaddy'd walk down a little bit, and sure enough, oh no, sure enough, I could hear them dogs. They were coming. Here come them dogs. They was headed back up toward where I was at. And Granddaddy says, oh, get ready. That rabbit's coming, son. Get ready. And I watched, and sure enough, coming up that little rise, you can see that rabbit, and it comes running, and the dogs are barking, and the Granddaddy's yelling, get ready, boy, and I take the gun, and I put it up on my shoulder, and I'm looking, and oh, please don't let that rabbit come up this way. And all of a sudden, there it was, right at the edge of the road, and it started across the road, and Granddaddy saying, shoot it, boy. Sure that. And I'm like, oh, and I squeezed the trigger, and bam! Oh, it scared me to death. And I looked, and the rabbit did a flip. I missed it, but the rabbit, it flipped. You see one of them carnival games where you shoot the rabbit, the little rabbit going across the metal rabbit thing, and it flips and goes the other way? That's what that rabbit did. I shot in front of that rabbit. That rabbit flipped. It started back across the road, back over toward the dogs. And Granddaddy said, "Shoot it! Shoot it!" And I shot again, and I'm right in front of that rabbit. That rabbit, just like it did before, it just turned and whack, flipped, and back across the road it goes. The dogs are coming. He said, "Don't let the dogs kill it. Shoot it." I closed my eyes, and I shot one more time. The dogs were coming. He said, "Get the rabbit." And I opened my eyes, and the rabbit was laying at the side of the road. Oh no, I hit it. Oh, I went running. He said, "Get the rabbit. Don't let the dogs get it." I go running over, and I look down, and that poor little rabbit's laying there, and his eyes are closed, and I'm looking at it. I didn't see any blood or anything. No, I'm just looking at it. Granddaddy's hollering, "Get the rabbit. Don't let the dogs get it." And I reached down and I grabbed the rabbit by the ears and I hold it up. And about that time, the rabbit's eyes opened up. And I could see his little heart just beating out of its chest. And it heard them dogs. Dogs everywhere. And he's saying, "Don't let the dogs get it. Hold it up." And I started holding the rabbit up. And the rabbit, it came back to life. And it started a kicking. And it started a scratching thing. God, I had on a long sleeve shirt, and it's trying to do its thing, and I'm holding the rabbit, and he's hollering, "Bring it to me, bring it to the truck, don't let the dogs get it." And I'm hearing all this stuff. I dropped my gun and started running. And I run down. That rabbit's a kicking me, and the rabbit, he's coming. Granddaddy's coming toward me, and I reach out, and Granddaddy grabs the rabbit by the ears. He takes it over to the side of the truck. I go to the back of the truck, and I'm panting like, "Oh, the dogs are coming," and they're just a barking, and all of a sudden everything got kind of quiet. The dogs are barking, and Granddaddy he had his game sack, and he had something else in it, and he threw it up in the back of the truck. "Get your gun, boy." I had to look around, and I dropped it, and I went over and I picked the gun up. And I came back to the truck, and he just gave me one of those looks, and he took the gun out of my hand, and he said, "Get in the truck." I did. He finished getting the dogs put up and getting everything situated in the back of the truck. He gets in, he shuts the door, and he cranks the truck, and we start heading back toward Gadsden. Pretty quiet ride back to Gadsden. Not a lot said. We get back to Granddaddy's house. He said, "You go change clothes. I'll take care of everything else." I got out, went in the house. Granddaddy went to the back. I walk in, the women are in the kitchen, cooking, of course. I started to say something, and I didn't. Patsy said, "Well, how did things go?" And I said, "Nothing." And went on and went in the bathroom and changed clothes. Took a shower. I didn't want to come out of that bathroom, but I could hear in the other room Granddaddy had come in. I opened the door. Miss Pauline asked me, "Arthur, did y'all do any good?" "I don't want to talk about it." He went to the back to change clothes. He came back out. Dinner was on the table. They said, Miss Pauline said, "Y'all come on now. I got dinner ready." So I go in there. I didn't know what was going to be on the table this time. And Patsy was there, and they had all that stuff. There's cream corn. There's more green beans. There's a salad this time, which I said, "Oh no." More rice, more mashed potatoes, more gravy, more Gadsden homemade biscuits. And about that time, Miss Pauline, she walks out with a big old plate of Southern fried chicken. Put it on the table. Granddaddy came around, sat down. He said, "Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for getting us home safe. Thank you, Lord, for the food we're going to eat. Thank you, Lord, that this day is over. Thank you, Lord. We'll see you in the morning. Amen. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation at dinner. Miss Pauline once again looked and said, Arthur, how'd things go? He looks up with a piece of chicken in his hand. He says, I don't want to talk about it. Put the chicken in his mouth, and that was about it. There wasn't a whole lot more conversation that night. Everybody got up from the table. Granddaddy Red said, I'll take care of them dogs. I'll be back in a minute. And he didn't invite me to go. And so Patsy and Miss Pauline started cleaning up, so I decided to help. They obliged and said, okay. We cleaned things up, and I went out on the porch, and a few minutes later, Patsy came out there. She sat down next to him and says, Bobby, what happened? I stood up from the chair, and I turned to go back in the house and said, I don't want to talk about it. And I went in. A little bit later, I could hear Brother Redden out on the front porch in his rocking chair. I knew I had to do something. Patsy was back in the kitchen with Miss Pauline. I went out on the porch and sat down in that rocking chair. And I turned to Granddaddy Redden as he was rocking back and forth. I told him, I said, Granddaddy, I'm sorry. I really didn't want to go, and I didn't want to upset you. He stopped rocking. He turned and looked at me. He said, I don't want to talk about it. I got up and I said, well, thank you, sir. See you in the morning. We're not going to be able to go to church. I've got some engagements I've got to take care of for the station when I get back, and we really appreciate it, but we're going to have to leave early. He's rocking in the chair. Good night. I went in the house. I said good night to Miss Pauline. I went and changed my clothes, took a shower, came back out. Pauline and Granddaddy Redden was in the bed already. Patsy was back in her room. So I walked in the living room, and over there on the sofa was the pillow, the blanket, and right at the foot of the bed was the pup. I kind of smiled. I said, everything's going to be okay. We settled down, and we went to sleep. But it wasn't very long. There's that rooster. So we get up and we get dressed, and I told Miss Pauline, I said, I'm sorry, but we need to leave. Patsy was ready and had everything packed. And we walked out on the porch, and Miss Pauline came. She says, here, I've got y'all some ham and biscuits to take with you. We really enjoyed it. Brother Redden comes out, and he looks at me, and he says, y'all have a safe trip. We're going to be in prayer for you. I turned and said, Granddaddy, can I ask you a question? He kind of looked at me and said, okay. I said, when we go to church or each Sunday and we stop at those houses and you take something up there, what was that? I said, son, we live in kind of a poor, just not the best area for everybody at this time of things that are going on. Plants laid a lot of people off. A lot of people just barely making it, trying to do the best they can. Good Lord still blesses us. So we can up what we can and buy up what we can buy up and put them in a little basket together. On the way to church every week, I'll just stop by and leave them a basket. Since they know where it's come from, God's taking care of it. We're going to do the best we can. And I hope you do the same thing as you get older. Just do the best you can. I said, well, got one other question. Okay. I noticed that every time I'm here, there's always an empty chair and a place that is set at the table. Why do you do that? Miss Pauline smiled. Brother Redden put his arm around her. And he looked at us. He said, "Son, no matter how bad times are, no matter what's going on in your life, don't you ever forget there's always room for one more." Y'all have a good trip. We left. Wasn't a lot talked about. Made it back to Marietta. My prayers were answered. He never asked me to go hunting again. But we did become good friends, and we'd go over and go to church. In fact, as I mentioned, in a few weeks, Patsy and I was going to be celebrating our 59th wedding anniversary, and I'm going to be doing a podcast that will kind of tell you how we met. Kind of interesting and how we got to the point we're at. But one of the great things is, when we did get married, Brother Arthur Redden was the minister that performed the ceremony. And we praise the Lord for that. I sure hope you've enjoyed our story today. I'm telling you. That's about it for this old rocking chair today. I hope somewhere along the way this story brought you a smile, maybe reminded you of a family, maybe reminded you of memory, maybe reminded you of somebody you welcomed into your life. This is Bobby Autry from Stories and Tall Tales from My Back Porch Rocking Chair. Thank you for stopping by. And if you enjoy these stories and have one you'd like to share, just drop me a line at the address listed above on the graphic. And it would be also greatly appreciated if you hit the subscribe button down below there on YouTube, so you can be informed when the next episode is ready to come out. You can just come over then and pull up a rocking chair and once again, just get you a glass of nice cold lemonade, rock in that chair, and we'll talk a while. Yes, we will. For you see, over here on the back porch, there's always room